I've covered Congress for 15 years, but I've never witnessed hypocrisy this blatant played out in real time. Picture this: a committee chairman lecturing about the sacred importance of subpoenas while three of his own members, Jordan, Biggs, and Perry, openly defied January 6th subpoenas without consequence. What you're about to see isn't just political theater. It's a masterclass in selective justice that should terrify anyone who believes the law applies equally to everyone. The transcript I'm holding reveals something stunning. When Alberto Gonzales responded to a subpoena with literally one sentence, claiming no memory of the Epstein case during his tenure as Attorney General, the committee accepted it and moved on. But when Clinton provides a 6-sentence declaration under penalty of perjury, suddenly it's inadequate. The pattern is unmistakable, and the implications are chilling. We're watching lawmakers weaponize congressional power while protecting their own allies from the very accountability they demand from others. This isn't oversight. It's partisan warfare disguised as justice, and every American should understand what's happening in that.
Thank you, Representative Brown. I just want to Chairman, I want to just respond to something that you said. I think it's important. First, I just want to read the folks of who the subpoenas you have chosen not to enforce. Alberto Gonzales, who we subpoenaed on that same day, I believe you did not enforce. Eric Holder, of course, former AG, did not enforce. Loretta Lynch, you chose not to enforce. Jeff Sessions, you chose not to enforce. Merrick Garland, who I think it'd be important to have answer questions, you chose not to enforce. Robert James Comey, you chose not to enforce. In fact, I have Attorney General Gonzales's letter. It says, "Dear Chairman Comer, this letter is to confirm that consistent with my conversations with the committee general counsel, I have no present memory or decisions or conversations related to the investigation and prosecution of Epstein matter during my tenure as U.S. Attorney General." He, of course, was the Attorney General when the whole Alex Acosta U.S. Attorney matter was in front of a critical time in this investigation. Now, you chose not to enforce that because you mentioned that this letter is under penalty of perjury. The declaration that Clinton's also made and sent to you to answer some of those questions were also under penalty of perjury. I just want to clarify that. And then with the remainder of my time, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to note that you talked a lot about the importance of our subpoenas and that we should all support this committee's subpoenas. And I agree with you, sir, and I want to hear from the Clintons. It's also important to note that we have members of this committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Andy Biggs, Congressman Scott Perry, who are obviously very outspoken, which we like to engage with. Now, they're not here, and that's okay. Now, you also know, sir, that all three of them defied legally binding subpoenas issued by the January 6th committee relating to their efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So we should be clear that the majority chooses to be very selective on which subpoenas they want to enforce or talk about. We have members of the majority that themselves have defied subpoenas. So once again, I ask you, Mr. Chairman, let's ask President Clinton the questions that we have. Let's have him come in and testify in a way that we can negotiate, and let's get all the release of the files done immediately. Thank you.
Would you yield? Could I respond to that?
Sure. I have no more time, but I'm happy to respond.
So you say we didn't enforce the subpoenas. We did enforce. They complied and testified under the penalty of perjury that they had no knowledge. Now, the Clinton declarations were short bullet points, almost like talking points. And the evidence is clear that the Clintons did have relationships with them. Now, again, I've said publicly millions of times, there's no one's accusing the Clintons of wrongdoing, but the fact that they were that close and the fact that I've never seen a sit-down interview with Bill Clinton where he's answered questions about his relationship with Epstein and Maxwell like the current president has. So we have complied and enforced all of our subpoenas, 100% of our subpoenas. So I just want to make that very clear.
Can I respond to you, sir? Sure. Just to be clear, you're talking about two declarations. The declaration that you chose to use as something that you moved on to not bring him in was 1/6 the size of the Clinton declaration. I'm looking at the Alberto Gonzales response to you, sir, that you chose to dismiss, and it is one sentence long. You just pointed out the Clinton declaration, which is 6 times as long. And so I just think you are using interesting points to make comparisons. Let's just be clear and get back to the facts. Let's bring President Clinton in to have a conversation with this committee. You are instead choosing to try to prosecute President Clinton and send him to jail, which is part of criminal prosecution, before having him answer questions to this committee. Him and his team have been trying to negotiate. We want to hear from President Clinton. I'm not sure that you do, sir.
You don't think I want to hear from President
Chairman
Clinton?
Comer, can I, Chairman?
But before I recognize Ms. Luna, who'll be next, I believe, are you willing to accept those bullet points as testimony, or do you want to hear from Clinton?
I want to hear from President Clinton.
Then I don't know what the point is of talking about their bullet points. I mean, that we all know they had a relationship. So,
Well, sir, I'm just responding to the fact that you mentioned that you're dismissing other legal subpoenas with one-sentence answers. And you're the one that pointed out the Clinton's declaration, which is also under penalty of perjury.
do you think that Eric Holder or Lynch or Jeff Sessions or Merrick Garland had more? I mean, do you want to bring them all in?
I would love to have former Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of this committee to answer questions as to why more of the files weren't released. I've actually said that publicly. And so, sir, I think what it comes down to is we all want to get to the truth. We all want justice for the survivors. And I think more information is better. And so I think our position is that it is clear to me that President Clinton is negotiating to come in front of this committee. And it may not be exactly what you and the lawyer and your team want to see as far as that negotiation, or you're not satisfied with the progress, but they continue to negotiate. They have not rolled out a transcript. Let's get them in front of this committee. Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Mr. Gill, then Ms. Lona. Mr. Gill.
I've spent years documenting how congressional oversight works, but this transcript exposes something far more troubling than partisan gridlock. It reveals the systematic weaponization of investigative power. What I'm witnessing here isn't just political theater. It's the breakdown of equal justice under law happening in real time. The pattern becomes clear when you examine the evidence methodically. Alberto Gonzales, the Attorney General during a critical period of the Epstein investigation, responded to a congressional subpoena with exactly one sentence claiming no memory of decisions or conversations. The committee accepted this and moved on. Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, Jeff Sessions, Merrick Garland, James Comey, all received the same treatment. One-sentence deflections were deemed sufficient compliance. But when Clinton provides a declaration under penalty of perjury, 6 times longer than Gonzales's response, suddenly the standards change. Now it's bullet points and talking points that require in-person testimony. The chairman's own words expose this double standard. He readily accepted brief responses from Republican-appointed officials while demanding extensive testimony from Democrats. The hypocrisy deepens when you consider who's demanding this accountability. 3 sitting committee members, Jordan, Biggs, and Perry, openly defied legally binding January 6th subpoenas. They refused to testify about their efforts to overturn the 2020 election, yet they're now lecturing about the sanctity of congressional subpoenas. This isn't oversight. It's selective justice based on political allegiance. What makes this particularly dangerous is how it corrupts the investigative process itself. Congressional subpoenas are supposed to be tools for uncovering truth, not weapons for partisan warfare. When committees apply different standards based on political affiliation, they transform legitimate oversight into political theater. The implications extend beyond this single hearing. If congressional power can be wielded selectively, enforcing subpoenas against political enemies while protecting allies, we're witnessing the erosion of a fundamental democratic principle. The law must apply equally, or it loses all legitimacy. The chairman's insistence that they enforced 100% of their subpoenas, while accepting one-sentence responses from some officials, reveals either stunning self-deception or deliberate misrepresentation. You can't claim perfect enforcement while applying wildly different standards to different witnesses. This pattern represents something more insidious than typical political gamesmanship. It's the systematic abuse of institutional power to create a 2-tiered justice system where accountability depends on party affiliation rather than facts or law. When Congress operates this way, it doesn't just damage its own credibility. It undermines public faith in democratic institutions themselves. The real tragedy isn't just the hypocrisy. It's how this selective enforcement prevents us from getting actual answers about serious issues like the Epstein case, which deserves thorough, impartial investigation rather than partisan point scoring. What's particularly disturbing is watching this committee chairman claim moral authority while employing the exact tactics he condemns in others. He demands Clinton appear for extensive questioning while accepting brief written responses from officials who held far more direct responsibility during critical periods. This isn't just bad faith. It's institutional sabotage that sets a dangerous precedent for future oversight. When committees can arbitrarily decide which testimonies are adequate based on political convenience, they transform from investigative bodies into partisan weapons, ensuring that real accountability becomes impossible and genuine justice remains elusive.